Thanks for clicking on the video. Hit the subscribe button for more weekly content and hit the notification bell so you won't miss a thing. In the beginning, there were not 3, but 4. Well, 5 if we include the sock puppet. 4.5? What's good, peeps? What's poppin'? How are you doing? And welcome to the start of a brand new What If series. What if Jeri joined since the beginning? Digimon Tamers is often regarded as the franchise's best season. The writers had more control over the finished product, correcting the mistakes that were littered in the previous season. Not only was it a more compelling story, but Tamers gave us a tale with more realistic and darker elements. Part of that was due in part to a very interesting character, Jeri Kato. At first glance, at least for me, Jeri didn't seem like someone who really contributed much to the story. And that's partially true. She was introduced as someone whom Takato had a schoolyard crush on, and that seemed to be her role. That changed as the season progressed, and her role was pivotal in driving the rest of the season. Given Jeri's history and personality, I think it's fair to say that she's quite the impactful character. So, what would happen if we took her from the sidelines and added her to the core team right from the beginning? If you're eager to find out, let's get started. Since this is the start of a new series, let's set the like goal to 20 likes. If that goal is reached, we'll continue the story into part 2. Let's begin. First, let's unpack a little of Jeri's character. On the surface, we all know that she exudes the cheerfulness and positivity of a child. Well, a little child. He's almost never seen without a smile on her face or a sock puppet on her hand. But Jeri's private life isn't so bright. A lot of the stuff wasn't outright stated in the dub, which is the series I'm familiar with, so I had to do a little extra research. But her upbringing isn't exactly filled with tender love and care. Jeri lost her birth mother at a young age and wasn't very receptive to her stepmother after her father remarried, despite her stepmother's best intentions. Her father is very strict on her, so that definitely put a strain on their relationship over the years. The only one she seems to have a normal relationship with is her younger half-brother, using her sock puppet to entertain him. For a 10 to 12-year-old, this is clearly a lot to deal with, but we see that she puts on a cheerful front for the sake of others. This is a defining personality trait within her, one that signifies her mental fortitude. This didn't break until Leomon was brutally impaled in the original. It takes a lot to get her to break. However, on the flip side of that same coin, this shows that Jeri has trouble opening up emotionally, even to her friends. Maybe we'll see that change as the series progresses. Our story begins unchanged with Takato, after losing to Kazu while playing the Digimon card game, finds the blue card. Events play out exactly the same way. Takato is late, he designs Guillemon, and is forced to stay after class to write his apology letter. Like before, Jeri forgets her flute and returns to class to retrieve it. This time, instead of teasing Takato about his drawings and not writing the letter, she seems rather intrigued by his artwork. "That's a Digimon," she said out loud, louder than she anticipated. Takato was a bit taken aback by this. He had no idea Jeri even knew about Digimon. Before he could even respond back, Jeri quickly exited the room after feeling a bit embarrassed for blurting that out. Poor Takato. Now he was really confused. Jeri's family operates a small restaurant, or tavern, it's not particularly clear, and after school, she was required to help out for a few hours. But the whole time, the main thing on her mind was Digimon. After her shift, she sat in her room, eyeing her large collection of Digimon cards. For her, this was a major secret. No one at school knew she was a fan of the game. It's not like she thought it had to be a secret, but none of her friends played it, so there was never any point of bringing it up. And at this point, she was only barely acquainted with Takato and his friends. Another thing is that she didn't actually know how to play the game either. Using the money she earned from work, she simply bought packs of cards and collected them, amassing a huge collection. Her collection, unbeknownst to her, had some pretty powerful cards as well. But more on that later. Jeri's favorite card though was Elecmon. It was the first monster card she got from her first pack. She even had the card sleeved. While sifting through her collection, Jeri saw something she hadn't recognized. It was a solid blue card. She picked it up to examine it. Surely she would have remembered getting a card like this one. It certainly stood out amongst the others. Driven by curiosity, Jeri swiped the card through her card reader just to figure it out exactly what it was. Surprise, surprise, the card reader became a yellow D-Power. Well, it was certainly a surprise for her, causing her to nearly fall out of her chair. "What is this thing?" she said while poking and prodding at the device. It couldn't be a Digivice, could it? Digimon is just a game. There's no way she could have a Digivice. That would mean Digimon are real, and that she was a Digidestined, like in the show. Jeri didn't notice that the device had a slot on the side like her former card reader. For fun, she wanted to test it out, and what better way to do that than with her Electmon card. She unsleeved the card and swiped it like she'd done countless times before. For a brief moment, nothing happened, and Jeri laughed it off, not knowing what she was expecting. But she was soon blinded by a bright light emerging from the D-Power. As soon as her vision returned, she was greeted by a bright red and blue Digimon chilling on her lap. The two exchanged silent blinks before Jeri actually fell out of her chair this time, accompanied by a startled shriek.
Jeri, are you okay? How did you know my name? That's kind of a silly question. I'm your partner. Of course I'd know your name.
She couldn't believe it. Digimon are real. Not only that, but she has one of her very own. But at that moment, Jeri's stepmother entered the room to see why Jeri had screamed. She quickly dismissed it as a spider on the wall, but when her stepmother took notice of Electmon, she had to think quickly again.
It's a new stuffed animal. He is my favorite after all.
This seemed to work, and her stepmother left without any further concerns. After the initial shock had faded, Jeri was thrilled at the prospect of having her own Digimon. For the rest of the night, she watched Electmon get acquainted with her room and taught him some basic things about the human world. But since she was still a novice when it actually came to Digimon, she thought it would be wise to get some help. The following morning, Jeri secretly takes Electmon to the park, hoping to find Takato there since she's seen him there several times with Kazu and Kenta. He knows more about Digimon than her, so maybe she can get some pointers from him. When she arrives, she notices Kazu and Kenta sprinting away as they tease Takato about something. She makes her way to the structure they emerge from, and sure enough, she finds Takato sitting in there.
Oh, hi Jeri. What are you doing here?
Without hesitation, she just blurts it out.
Takato, I want you to teach me about Digimon.
Just like what happened in the classroom, he was confused by this sudden outburst. Where is this coming from all of a sudden? In response, Jeri opened the box in her hands to reveal Electmon. As you would expect, Takato's jaw dropped at what was before his eyes.
That's Electmon! You have a real Digimon!
Then Takato snapped back to reality and reached for his box to pull out his own D-Power. He looked and saw that Guillemon's egg had hatched with directions pointing towards his point of bioemergence.
What's that?
Jeri asked.
I think this would lead me to my own Digimon partner. I would love to teach you about Digimon, but I have to go. Can me and Electmon go with you? I would love to see another real-life Digimon.
Electmon nodded in agreement. Takato, too excited to think, agreed to let Jeri tag along, and the group went on their way. They successfully navigated their way throughout the city until they got to the construction site where Guillemon appeared. Like before, Takato was in awe that he now has his very own Digimon partner, and Jeri once again remarks that she thinks he's actually kind of cute. But before Takato could correct her, Guillemon vaporizes the rats he sees, and the two kids are now terrified. Jeri's screams cause the red Digimon to notice them, and the first thing he sees is Electmon in a battle-ready stance to protect Jeri. Guillemon's feral instincts are flared up, and he too readies himself to strike, charging up another pyrosphere. This is only stopped once Takato cries out Guillemon's name. Guillemon appears to have regained his composure at the sound of Takato's voice. His wild side is tamed, and it becomes very apparent to Takato, Jeri, and Electmon that Guillemon is actually very friendly. Guillemon has also taken an immediate interest in Electmon, and vice versa, as they are the only two Digimon they've seen since arriving in the human world. As it was already getting kinda late, Takato promises to teach Jeri all that he knows about Digimon tomorrow at school. She accepts this, and the two return home with their respective partners, excited about the future. The next day plays out similar to the original in the beginning, with Guillemon leaving his box fort to look for Takato. He ends up missing, and Takato frantically searches for him. This time, Jeri joins him. The two bump into Henry and Terriermon, and the little guy still chastises Takato for losing him. Tears ensue, and Jeri is left behind after Takato runs off. She decides to continue looking around the school, and Guillemon is up on the roof, looking out into the city. She goes up to the newborn Digimon and gently tells him that he must listen to Takato. If he gets lost or gets in trouble, that'll make Takato sad, and Guillemon wouldn't want that. Sure enough, he agrees, and thanks Jeri for telling him that. Takato soon makes his way back to the school roof as well, and Guillemon promises to listen to Takato from now on. Later that day, now with Electmon with her, Jeri assists Takato in finding a new place to hide Guillemon. Enter Renamon with a flying kick to Guillemon's face, along with Rika, looking for her next challenger. Just like before, Rika refuses to call off Renamon, believing that Digimon are meant to fight and grow stronger. While Guillemon and Renamon are fighting, Electmon is stirring to join in, wanting to help his new friend. Rika takes note of this and tries taunting Jeri into letting him fight, saying it would be like 2 birds with 1 stone for her. Jeri clearly refuses, not understanding the point of fighting at all. Rika, like she does at this point in the story, scoffs at this notion, and instead of using words, tries to use action to get her point across. Rika orders Renamon to attack Electmon instead. In Rika's eyes, his partner clearly has no idea what she's doing, and by getting rid of Electmon, that's easy data for her. Renamon readies up a Diamond Storm to take him out, but is knocked away by a Pyrosphere from Guillamon. Instead of Takato calling him off, this time, he's prepared to fight, and that's where this part will end. What a way to start things off. Jeri's influence seems to have made some pretty noticeable changes already, even without her getting into the action just yet. So what do you guys think? How will Jeri's early impact influence things from here on out? It looks like Takato's fire got ignited a lot earlier than before, but what about her impact on the others as well? Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, you know, all of that good stuff. 20 likes will get you part 2, and I'll see you guys in the future part. Bye bye.